Okay, part 2 of the introduction for Artist's Way: how to use this book for your creative recovery. There are a number of ways to use this book. Most of all, I invite you to use it creatively. This section offers you a sort of roadmap through the process, with some specific ideas about how to proceed. Some students have done the course solo, others have formed circles to work through the book together. In the back of the book, you will find guidelines about doing the work in groups. No matter which way you choose, the artist way will work for you. First, you may want to glance through the book to get a sense of the territory covered. Reading the book through is not the same as using it. Each chapter includes essays, exercises, tasks, and a weekly check in. Don't be daunted by the amount of work it seems to entail. Much of the work is really play, and the course takes little more than 1 hour a day. When I am formally teaching, I suggest students set a weekly schedule. For example, if you are going to work a Sunday to Sunday week, begin by reading the chapter of the week on Sunday night. After you've read the chapter, speed write through the exercises. The exercises in each week are critical. So are the morning pages and the artist date. More about these in the next chapter. You probably won't have time to complete all of the other tasks in any given week. Try to do about half. Know that the rest are there for use when you are able to get back to them. In choosing which half of the tasks to do, use two guidelines. Pick those that appeal to you and those you strongly resist. Leave the more neutral ones for later. Just remember, in choosing, that we often resist what we most need. In all, make a time commitment of about 7 to 10 hours a week, an hour a day, or slightly more if you choose. This modest commitment to using the tools can yield tremendous results within the 12 weeks of the course. The same tools, used over a longer period, can alter the trajectory of a lifetime. In working with this book, remember that the artist's way is a spiral path. You will circle through some of the issues over and over, each time at a different level. There is no such thing as being done with an artistic life. Frustrations and rewards exist at all levels on the path. Our aim here is to find the trail, establish our footing, and begin the climb. The creative vistas that open will quickly excite you. What to expect? Many of us wish we were more creative. Many of us sense we are more creative, but unable to effectively tap that creatively. Our dreams elude us. Our lives feel somehow flat. Often we have great ideas, wonderful dreams, but are unable to actualize them for ourselves. Sometimes we have specific creative longings we would love to be able to fulfill, learning to play the piano, painting, taking an acting class, or writing. Sometimes our goal is more diffuse. We hunger for what might be called creative living, an expanded sense of creativity in our business lives, in sharing with our children, our spouse, our friends. While there is no quick fix for instant pain free creativity, creative recovery or discovery is a teachable, trackable spiritual process. Each of us is complex and highly individual, yet there are common recognizable denominators to the creative recovery process. Working with this process, I see a certain amount of defiance and giddiness in the first few weeks. This entry stage is followed closely by explosive anger in the course's midsection. The anger is followed by grief, then altering waves of resistance and hope. This peaks and valleys phase of growth becomes a series of expansions and contractions, a birthing process in which students experience intense elation and defensive skepticism. This choppy growth phase is followed by a strong urge to abandon the process and return to life as we know it. In other words, a bargaining period. People are often tempted to abandon the course at this point. I call this a creative U-turn. Recommitment to the process next triggers the free fall of a major ego surrender. Following this, the final phase of the course is characterized by a new sense of self marked by increased autonomy, resilience, expectancy, and excitement, as well as by the capacity to make and execute concrete creative plans. If this sounds like a lot of emotional turmoil, it is. When we engage in a creative recovery, we enter into a withdrawal process from life as we know it. Withdrawal is another way of saying detachment or non attachment, which is emblematic of consistent work with any meditation practice. In movie terms, we slowly pull focus, lifting up and away from being embedded in our lives until we attain an overview. This overview empowers us to make valid creative choices. Think of it as a journey with difficulty, varied, and fascinating terrain. Think of it as a journey with difficult, varied, and fascinating terrain. You are moving to higher ground. The fruit of your withdrawal is what you need to understand as a positive process, both painful and exhilarating. Many of us find that we have squandered our own creative energies by investing disproportionately in the lives, hopes, dreams, and plans of others. Their lives have obscured and detoured our own. As we consolidate a core as we consolidate a core through our withdrawal process, we become more able to articulate our own boundaries, dreams, and authentic goals. Our personal flexibility increases while our malleability to the whims of others decreases. We experience a heightened sense of autonomy and possibility. Ordinarily, when we speak of withdrawal, we think of having a substance removed from us. We give up alcohol, drugs, sugar, fats, caffeine, nicotine, and we suffer a withdrawal. It is useful to view creative withdrawal a little differently. We ourselves are the substance we withdraw to, not from, as we pull our overextended and misplaced creative energy back into our core. We begin to excavate our buried dreams. This is a tricky process. Some of our dreams are very volatile, and the mere act of brushing them off sends an enormous surge of energy bolting through our denial system. Such grief, such loss, such pain. It is at this point in the recovery process that we make what Robert Bly calls a descent into ashes. We mourn the self we abandoned. We greet this self as we might greet a lover at the end of a long and costly war. To effect a creative recovery, we must undergo a time of mourning in dealing with the suicide of the nice self we have been making do with. We find a certain amount of grief to be essential. Our tears prepare the ground for our future growth. Without this creative moistening, we may remain barren. We must allow the bolt of pain to strike us. Remember, this is useful pain. Lightning illuminates. How do you know if you are creatively blocked? Jealousy is an excellent clue. Are there artists whom you resent? Do you tell yourself, I could do that if only? Do you tell yourself that if only you took your creative potential seriously, you might stop telling yourself, it is too late? Stop waiting until you make enough money to do something you'd really love. Stop telling yourself it's just my ego whenever you yearn for a more creative life. Stop telling yourself that dreams don't matter, that they are only dreams, that you should be more sensible. Stop fearing that your family and friends would think you crazy. Stop telling yourself that creativity is a luxury and that you should be grateful for what you have got. As you learn to recognize, nurture, and protect your inner artist, you will be able to move beyond pain and creative constriction. You will learn ways to recognize and resolve fear, remove emotional scar tissue, and strengthen your confidence. Damaging old ideas about creativity will be explored and discarded. Working with this book, you will experience an intensive guided encounter with your own creativity, your private villains, champions, wishes, fears, dreams, hopes, and triumphs. The experience will make you excited, depressed, angry, afraid, joyous, hopeful, and ultimately more free.